Log homes, and this is just me talking, and I'm talking from somebody from a standpoint of claims. I will tell you that we see few, very few structural type claims that you would normally see with a conventional home. If they ever start putting logs on the roof, I'm out of business. There'd be no reason to buy it.
Right, yep. Hi, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Lacey.
And I'm Fred Roberts.
Welcome to the Acorn and Leaf Podcast. Welcome, everyone. Today we have Fred, the insurance guy from the log home industry, here visiting with us. Fred, give us a background and tell us about how you got into the insurance business and why you decided to specialize in log homes.
And that's a good story because nobody grows up. When any of us were young kids, nobody ever says, you know what? I want to grow up and be an insurance man. Nobody ever says that. You can ask every person on the block. And, everybody sees when they watch that movie, what was it, Groundhog Day, and they see that guy walk up there and go, hey, you want to buy some life insurance? Well, anyway, I was supposed to be just like everybody else that grew up down in the southern part of Houston, Texas, and we were supposed to go work in the refineries where my dad was a contractor. But anyway, back in the 80s and 90s and things got tough, I was looking for something else to do, and a friend of mine said, hey, you know what you ought to do? And I said, what's that? He said, you ought to sell insurance. I said, are you kidding me? I don't want to sell insurance. And he said, no, you do it differently. And I said, well, okay. Anyway, so I went ahead and signed up for the deal, and I got picked up by 3 of the major companies, and I ended up going to work for one of them. And along the trail, what happened was me and the bride, the wife, we decided we wanted to build a log home. And of course, when you've got that thought and that dream and so on and so forth, the smart ones, what they'll do is they'll talk to a log home builder and manufacturer. What you won't do is go out there and cut down some old pine trees and stack them up together. That's not the way to do it. You talk to someone who knows, a professional like yourselves. Well, anyway, so we went to one of the seminars that one of our individuals in the industry was having. We found it on the internet, and we went to it, and I was sitting there with about 200 other people about like this listening, because they got to the insurance part. And I'm thinking, oh, God. But anyway, and so I'm sitting there listening, and he said something wrong. He said something that wasn't right. So anyway, every so often you take a break. So at the break, I go up there and I said, you know what you told those people about this and the insurance business? He said, yeah. And he called me Frederick. This particular person called me Frederick all the time. He goes, yeah, Frederick, what is it? And I said, well, that's wrong. And this is what it's supposed to be. And so he said, would you mind getting up and talking to the crowd? Well, I was raised by 5 sisters, a mama and a dad, and a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house, so nothing scares me. And so I got up and talked in front of those people, and that was 15 years ago. And I've been doing it ever since. And it's kind of crazy because the log home industry has been great to me. It's a great industry to be in. You know what I insure? I insure houses in places where people want to live instead of where they have to live.
Yeah, that's right.
It's been a great time, and I intend to do this till the day they carry me out feet first. It's just a good industry.
Well, being a person that has put on those seminars, it is always your worst nightmare when you think you're afraid somebody's going to be in the crowd that knows more about some subject than you do. And particularly, we've sold several houses to guys that are foresters, they have a degree in forestry and retiring from the U.S. Forest Service. And that always scares me to death because I know my stuff, but still it's like I'm always afraid I'm going to say something wrong.
Oh, no, I understand.
Yeah. So good for you for straightening them out and straightening out people here in the industry about telling them the truth about insuring log homes.
You know what? I tell people, number one, I said, they always ask the same questions on a regular basis. They go, well, what about fires? What about fires? I said, let me explain something to you. Those John Wayne movies, those where the engines ride by and they shoot the air in the side of the the cabin and it just engulfs and goes up in flames. I said, number one, somebody had to pour diesel on that cabin before they shot it with a flaming arrow, because I said, think about this. Do you go outside to have a campfire and do you start out with a log this big or do you start out with some twigs? I said, it's the same process with log homes. I said, log homes don't burn very easy. They can, but not very easy. And so I had to write a paper on on the log homes over in Pigeon Forge, I think it was, this past year. And they said, well, the log homes caught on fire. Actually, what happened is they had a wildfire on the outside, and then the embers got through the glass, and you can prevent that too. The embers got through the glass, so you had a raging fire on the inside, because I tell you what will burn. Couches will burn.
Yeah. Mattresses, right.
Yeah, you had furniture burning. And just on the outside, you basically just had smoke. And a lot of times the outside of the logs will get charred. Well, they can correct that.
Right.
It's not what they think. And then you know what the next question is? What about bugs? And I said, what about bugs? And they'll go, well, what about termites? I said, well, termites? And they go, yeah. I said, I'll be truthful with you. If you maintain your house, and if every spring you'll walk around, take some water and a cold drink and walk around your house and wash the thing off and so on and so forth, keep an eye on it, you'll never have problems. Termites normally come up through the ground. They come over and you'll see those termites. What you have to do on log homes, you'll see the termites coming in or bugs coming in. On a conventional home, that's what we like to call them, conventional homes,
right.
Hardy plank, the brick, the whatever.
Stick houses.
Yeah. You know what they do there? They come up, they go over to the weep holes, go up the weep holes, and you never see them again till you're sitting there with your drink and you're watching TV, and you go, what's that dark spot on my sheetrock?
Yeah.
And what it is that the termites eating their way through
right.
and so on and so forth. And so bugs are not really an issue. And then the only other thing is carpenter bees. If you got a problem with carpenter bees, they've got a way to take care of those. We don't have those here from Central America over. Those are primarily on the eastern side.
Where you insure log homes all over the United States?
Yes, ma'am. We insure in 44 states. It goes back to that thing. If there's a view, whether it's in the woods, whether it's on a lake, whether it's on a mountain, those are the places you build log homes. But I have insured some log homes on the seafront or the Gulf Coast area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A crazy thing is, I'd have never, ever thought this. There are a lot of log homes in Florida.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah. And you know how many claims I've had on log homes because of hurricanes in Florida? Zero. Log homes, and this is just me talking, and I'm talking from somebody from a standpoint of claims. I will tell you that we see very, very few structural type claims that you would normally see with a conventional home. If they ever start putting logs on the roof, I'm out of business. There'd be no reason to buy it.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, we've had several situations where tornadoes have hit our houses, and all it did was take the porch off. And I've had engineers and insurance guys call me up and say, man, this made a believer out of me, because they said these, their houses all around them are just completely gone. There's nothing left but the foundation, and the log house is still sitting there.
It'll be there.
Yep.
I've seen a log home floating down the river, still intact. I've got a picture. I'll send it to you.
Well, I've seen that picture too, and I laugh because I say that's not one of ours because we do something different than everybody else does. We actually run our logs around the subfloor and we bolt the first row of logs down to the foundation. So it's not going anywhere.
I've seen a house that's been flooded 3 times and the people enjoyed their log home so much they raised
Raise it up.
their floor or the concrete slab up about 5 feet where they wouldn't have to worry about that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
After it was already built and everything. That was a feat. Yeah.
Log homes are not just a structure to keep the rain off of you. Log homes are a feeling. I live in a log home, wouldn't live in anything else. I'm old enough to have lived in all the others, but there is nothing like living in a log home. Now, I will tell you this, if you live in a log home, you need to put up a 8-foot serpentine wire at the very top because people will come to your house on Christmas. Because they want to see how your house is decorated, especially on the inside. And I'm big on Christmas. We got I think it's 24-foot tall ceiling, and I've got a big 14-foot Christmas tree, and there's nothing like it. Turn on the fireplace. Now, the only thing I might do different, I might in the future put a wood stove in there. I like the wood stoves.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a big old fireplace like y'all do there, but I like the wood stoves too, and they're very very environmentally friendly.
Yeah, they don't eat as much wood as a fireplace does.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't take a lot of wood to keep them going. I had a 80-year-old couple over in the East. That's how they heated their house, with a wood stove and a log house. And you know the factors of the environmental as far as the thermal mass and the heating and so on and so forth. You've seen how much that testing has shown how much wood structures, solid wood structures, the CLTs, logs, and so on and so forth, make a difference as far as your cost or as far as your heating or air conditioning goes.
Right.
Yeah, I've got a wood furnace in my basement, and that's how I heat my whole house. And I've got a really big house. I'm heating about 6,000 square feet. So that furnace heats this thing really well.
What are you doing with a 6,000 square foot house? Are you leasing it out?
Well, I built it when my kids were little, and believe me, there was times in this house felt small with about 25 teenage boys running around inside of it. So
I got you.
So yeah, they all left me. So now I just wander around in it. Yeah, but
we won't let her sell it. It's not an option. So
no.
It's a pretty spot. I know exactly what you mean. I've got a lake, and you come down the driveway and you see the lake at night, and it doesn't matter how bad a day you had, it just makes you feel good.
It was probably one of the best decisions we ever made. And I'm not just saying that because we're on your talk show. I would tell that to you down the street. But I will tell you that I brought my wife from the city and moved her to the country, and we built that log home. And you couldn't blow her out of here now with dynamite. She loves it here.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
The people that aren't able to do that, you know what they do? They sit there in the city and think about going to their log home every weekend or for a couple of weeks or this or that. It's just a different feeling. It's a different feeling. So the insurance, people ask me, is insurance any more expensive in a log home than it is a conventional home? And I'm going to tell you no. It's based on where you located the home. If you take a brick home and set it on the side of a mountain, 20 miles from a fire department, you're going to pay more for insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So it's based on it's location. It's not the factor whether it's log or not. It's the factor of where it's located. Now, then the next thing everybody says is, well, we can't find anybody to insure our log home. We called our guy that's been in, oh man, it was grandma's insurance agent. Now it's my dad's insurance agent. And so now he's my insurance agent. And I called him, and he said, what are you talking about? A log home? first thing he's going to say, don't you know those things catch on fire? Which ought to be the first indicator he has no clue.
Right.
Yes.
Run.
The factor is this, and it's just like in your part of the log home industry. There's a lot, and there's thousands of people out there that build conventional homes. There's only a few that build dream homes and log homes and so on and so forth. And so Lynn, you could either be a little fish in a big pond in Houston, Texas, or you can be a big fish in a little pond. And so what I am a big fish in a little pond. And that's because I have a niche and I really enjoy it. I work with great people.
Yeah. So what are the hurdles that you've had to overcome, or what are the hurdles you still maybe overcome? I know you said location as far as getting people insured, but what other obstacles do you find people have or that you have when it comes to insuring their log home?
The only thing that we hear from is as far as getting homes insured is availability of agents. But they're out there and they need to, what I would recommend people do is call a log home company like y'all's and ask y'all, and y'all can refer them to somebody. And I'll make sure I send you 1,000 business cards after we get off this thing where you can send it. But now, there's some companies that don't like, we talked about wood burning stoves. There's some of them that don't care for it. But those, be truthful with you, those are far and in between. I'm going to recommend that you tell people the first person to call is an agent that works rurally, works in the rural areas.
Mm-hmm.
Don't call somebody downtown in one of the major cities and ask them about insurance. Call somebody, that guy that's in that town of 3,000 people or better, or even less. I'm in a town of 246, so that tells you how big we are.
Mm-hmm.
But they're a rural type of insurance agent is going to understand what you're doing greater than a big city insurance agent.
That's a good point.
And we'll be right back. I know. We get it. You've been sitting there, driving your car. Maybe you're running on a jog on a beautiful morning, listening to this podcast and thinking about building your log home. So we made it easy for you. Start your journey with us here at Gastineau Log Homes. Family owned, women led, and proudly crafting oak log homes since 1977. As the largest oak log home manufacturer in America, we're here to help bring your dream, big or small, to life. You can call our office at 573-896-5122 or swing by the National Model Home Center here in Kingdom City, Missouri, or even visit us online at oakloghome.com to get started. Because your dreams never look so good. While you're listening to this podcast, did you find yourself loving or imagining the smell of sawdust or the thrill of closing a deal? Well, good, because we're hiring. From the mill to sales to design to even shipping, there's a place for you at Gastineau Log Homes. You can apply today at oakloghome.com/careers. If you've been enjoying the Acorn and Leaf podcast, do us a quick favor. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps more folks who love log home living find us and join the conversation, which is such an awesome community. And hey, if you love what we do here at Gastineau Log Homes, head over to Google and leave us a review there as well. It means the world to us and keeps the dream growing. Thanks for listening and for being part of the Gastineau family. Back to the show.
You know what you're saying about location. In our seminars that we do, I do this whole Dreams to Reality program where I talk about, when it comes to how much you're going to spend to build your house, how the issues you're going to have with building codes, everything else, how it all goes back to location. It's way more expensive to build in some locations versus others, and so that when you're looking for property, a little research into that property can help you to keep your costs down if you're on a really strict budget. Just one of the things you have to give up if like you said, if you're on the side of a mountain, and everything's got to be packed in with pack mules, it's going to cost more. So, that location is really important.
I tell people all the time, I tell them, you know what? I enjoy seeing more of what God made than what man made.
Mhm.
When I'm sitting on my porch, and everybody builds log homes differently, I like porches. I like
Mhm.
porches. I mean, if the wind's blowing from the north, I can go to the south. If the wind's blowing from the east, I can go to the west. I mean, I can go wherever I want to, me and my old dog. And my old dog understands me. See, he never talks back, so he goes to sit with me out there in the porch. But until you've lived it, unless you've got to have that dream, and make it a reality. I see people in audiences year after year, month after month, and you can tell they've got a shine in their eyes because they are doing something they really want to do. And the only time that shine gets brighter is when that house is completed and they're living in it. That's the difference.
I say that's why I'm still doing this, Fred, is because it's still fun. I mean, helping people get their dream homes, and hopefully in a couple of years I'll retire and drive around and see all those houses that we built. That's my goal. But it's really, really rewarding. People are really attached to their houses. I've had so many people tell me, once you live in a log home, you'll never live in anything else.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Lacey here, she came home from the hospital when she was born. She came home to a log home. And the first time she didn't live in a log home was when she went to live in the dorm at Baylor for college. And everybody at school thought it was so cool because she grew up in a log home.
Totally normal for me. I don't even, that is
She
my
thought
norm.
that's how everybody lived.
Really?
Wait a minute. Not everybody lives in a 6,000 square foot.
This is true. Yes.
You got me beat. If I had a picture of my house, I'd show it to you. But
there's a lot of the larger log home companies. There's several. I shouldn't say a lot, but several of the really big log insurance companies, rather, don't insure log homes. Do you know? Do you know why that is?
Yeah, it's 3% of the industry.
Because it's just too small.
Where are they going to put their interest in? The
Right.
8 million people that live in a town like Houston, Texas? Or are they going to put it in these other sparsely populated areas?
Gotcha.
And there again, you'd have to spend time learning the trade. I mean, when we had our log home built, people don't realize it, but the water is basically gone on those logs when they're ready to build your house. In fact, I've got a picture of me. Now I'm 70 years old. I got a picture of me holding the log on my shoulder about 16 feet long, and I took a picture of it, and I probably need to have it put up somewhere where I can remember it. The insurance companies, the big insurance companies, and then you've got the crazy thing about the wildfires.
Oh.
If you mitigate your home, around your home, keep the bushes up away from your house, you keep the overhang of the branches and so on and so forth off your house, then you're not going to have those issues. But
right.
If you're not cognizant of that, I don't care if you live in a brick home, a stone house, or a log home, your house is going to burn. It just is what it is. And it's normally not the log walls that burn first. Normally it comes up underneath the roof and burns that way. So if it's a concrete home, it's coming over no matter what.
Right.
Well, where do you see the log homes being built the most right now? Are you talking to people all over the United States, but is there any particular location you're noticing people are building a lot of them in?
I wish I could answer that and say, well, you know what, they're really covering up over here in the Colorado area, they're really covering up the Missouri area, or the Kentucky, Tennessee, or Florida area. But that 3%, that 3%, last year, 8% of all the custom homes built in the United States were log homes. Now that's a bigger number. And so where do I see them? I'm seeing it as these people are either have are moving out from the big city to get away from that rat race, and they're moving out to the country, and they want to build something that maybe they've thought about all their life, but they saw on TV, and so what they're doing is they're really it's all over the place.
That's what we're seeing too. We've got houses under construction from Oregon and California to New Hampshire and Rhode Island and North Carolina and Michigan, everywhere. Some people, we actually ship a lot of houses to Illinois, and a lot of them are built out in the middle of a cornfield. And it's like they can't move to the mountains. They're at that point in their life, or maybe their family, they don't want to move away from their family, and so they bring the mountains to Illinois. They'll plant some trees and because it's hard to find wooded property, of course, and it's more expensive. So, but anyway, we find people building pretty much everywhere.
We insured a log home last week in Florida in the middle of an orange grove.
Oh, cool.
And it was really cool looking. It was pretty neat. And not only was it an attractive home, but it was just kind of neat sitting there in the middle of those orange grove. And it wasn't a 50-year-old couple or 60 or 70-year-old couple. It was a young, probably 30-year-old couple with young children, and they own thousands of acres, and they wanted to build this log home. So that's where we're insuring.
Cool. That's very neat.
Thousands of acres of orange groves in Florida. They're doing something right.
I guess so. A log home is not I'm going to use a generic term. It's not a Chevrolet or a Ford. It's more of a BMW or a Jaguar or something. It doesn't cost any more, but it's kind of it's something you want to look at.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me how many houses that you drove to going to work today that you didn't pay any attention to. And if you saw a log home, you looked over at it.
Yeah.
Guaranteed to you. So it's got that, for a lack of terms, I guess they call that curb appeal.
Right.
But so many people build log homes in places where people never see them.
Yep.
And I have people come in here, and we've got so many houses all over Missouri, and someone will come in and they say, well, I'm from some so-and-so town, some little bitty town like you were talking about. And do you know Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so? And they're like, well, yeah, I know them. And I said, well, they've got one of our houses, and they had no idea. It's a town of 1,000 people, and they know these people and had no idea they live in a log home and had never seen it. So there's a lot more of them out there than people realize.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know how many log homes there are? Just to give you an idea, in Sevier County, Tennessee.
I don't know how many there are now. What's that number?
The number, this was about a year or so ago, it was a little over 10,000.
Wow.
Now, that's not the norm,
No.
but I don't want to live in a town of 10,000 homes anyway. There are more out there than the industry realizes, and you're exactly correct. It's a specialty industry. It is it's one of those things you sit back and look at, and you do that. You have that same feeling the first day you complete it, and 15 years later, I still enjoy driving up to my house, going up a hill, and looking at my log home. And I still get a kick out of people coming over to our house that's never been there. And I like, you know what the first word they say, or the first sentence is, don't you?
What?
You live in a log home?
And
They're surprised, huh?
and the second sentence, are these logs solid?
Yeah. You know what? It's hard to explain.
What's the coolest location that you think you've ever insured a home?
There's a lot of the coolest locations. We've done some homes on the side of a mountain that the house was beautiful, but the view sitting on that porch was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
We've done a lot close to rivers and so on and so forth. And log home people aren't in the box thinkers.
That's right. Yep.
They're particular. They're going to put their log home. Now, sometimes it may be deep in the woods.
Yep.
And then you've got those others that are out in the open.
Mm-hmm.
What I tell people all the time is that You've got a beautiful home. You've got an unbelievable view. You can't see a skyscraper from anywhere around here. And yeah, you may have to drive 15 miles to a grocery store, but it's worth the drive.
Yeah, we've got a house. We got a house under construction right now that the deck hangs over this bluff, and you can see the Mississippi River 180 degrees. You know, and it is just so cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, would a brick home look right in that spot?
No.
No, it would.
So, Fred, to kind of wrap this up, would there be any last tips that you have for people who are looking to insure their log home, or they're looking at insuring their log home?
Well, number one, deal with professionals like yourself, because that will take all the guessing out of the equation. If you get with professionals, that will take all the guessing out. You can you know what, and I tell people all the time, you know what, you want to have fun, go tell these people what you're looking for, and tell them what you're looking after. And you know what, then if they have somebody who's going to, like a drafts person or so on and so forth, they can build it. But just tell them what you're thinking about and how you want to do it and so on and so forth. Whether it's a $50,000 little cabin or a $5 million home, you tell them what you want them to do, and they'll design it for you and get you where you can stay there. The only thing I'll tell them about the insurance is, like I said earlier, and that is my first suggestion is talk to a rural type of insurance agent. And because they're going to understand it a little bit more than what the big guys on Main Street are. And it's not hard to find. It's easy to do. It's not any more complicated. It's just what you're used to.
Right.
You know, I used to play a little football in school, but I couldn't play rugby, and most rugby players couldn't play football. So,
Yep.
I mean, it's all what it's what you're used to.
Yeah, what you're
So
familiar with.
try to go with the professionals, and they will take your dream and run with it, and you'll be glad you did.
Well, what's the best way for somebody to contact you if they're interested in insurance for their log home, whether it's to be built or somebody that's listening that already lives in a log home?
Our 800 number is 877-378-2377. That's 877-378-2377. Call me if you have a question. I'll be happy to answer what I can. You know, I can't encourage people enough. It's a smart move. It really is. Whether you live in a good place or Tornado Alley.
What's your website address?
LogHomesInsurance.com. And you can actually, if you're trying to figure out what it would cost to insure it, you go to the 4th tab, go in there and put a little information in there. I think it's got about 20 questions. They're pretty simple, and we can figure it and send it back to you. A lot of times people want to know what it's going to cost them before they build it.
There you go.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you, Fred, very much for sharing your knowledge with us today and your experiences, not only in your chosen field of insurance, but also just in your process of finding and building your own log home and your experiences and living in one for 15 years. So we really appreciate all of your comments and input.
Well, thank you for having me. It was very enjoyable, and I think I'll go get me another cup of coffee. Nice seeing y'all. We'll see y'all around.